students, welcome to this video session. My name is Samuel Chukwu Emeka. In this video session, we shall discuss difference of two squares part 2. This is a continuation of the difference of two squares part 1. In this video session, we shall do more problems regarding the difference of two squares. Please, it is highly recommended that before you begin viewing this video, that you have viewed part 1 and that you also meet all the prerequisites for part 1, okay, so that you can have a smooth understanding of part 2. Alright, so before we begin, can you recall what the difference of two squares is? And we say that the difference of two squares is the product of their sum and their difference. Remember what we did in part 1, okay? So, it's just a continuation of that. So that is the first thing we write first, okay? Let's write the difference of two squares. A squared, difference of two squares, is the product of their sum, a plus b times a minus b, and their difference. So here we will do more challenging problems. Well, it's not challenging to me anyway. But anyway, in what we are going to do here, if you just look at the problem, you might not think that is the difference of two squares. So that becomes a problem. If you look at it and you're asked to factor it, you might not think it's the difference of two squares. So you've got to do something, you know. Now, if you can recall, when you're factoring incomplete expressions, right? We're factoring incomplete expressions. There are several ways you can factor. First of all, you see whether you can factor by GCF. Okay? GCF means greatest common factor. So if you can factor by GCF, that's fine. You try and factor by GCF. Otherwise, you see whether you can factor by grouping. Factoring by grouping. If that doesn't work, you see whether you can factor by difference of two squares. See whether it's the difference of two squares. If that doesn't work, see whether it's difference of two cubes. Okay? See whether it's difference of two cubes. And if that doesn't work, check whether you can use the factoring method of quadratic trinomial, if it is a trinomial. So these are kind of the 5 methods you can apply in factoring. Please view that video on factoring. So let's start with question 1. Let's begin to solve questions, okay? And we will see. Now, this is 5e squared minus 45. So if you kind of look at it, it is not straightforward to tell you that it's the difference of two squares. It doesn't look straightforward because the only thing you see there is p squared. You don't see 5. 5 is not a perfect square. 45 is not a perfect square. So when you see this now and you're asked to factor it, you might be confused. But don't be confused. You try by factoring by GCF. Try and see whether there's any common factor there first. Okay? So if we look at this now, is there a common factor? And if there are common factors, what is the greatest common factor? So if you look at this, the greatest common factor is 5. Okay, I did a video on factors and multiples. You can view it. Greatest common factor is 5. And 5p squared divided by 5 will give you p squared. Minus 45 divided by 5 will give you minus 9. Okay? 5p squared divided by 5 is p squared minus 45 divided by 5 is 9. So if you now look at this now, so what we just did was factoring by GCF. And when we now factored by GCF, we now see that we now have difference of 2 squares. So we can go ahead now and complete this. This is now p squared minus 3 squared. And this will now give you 5p plus 3 times p minus 3. Okay? So you have now factored the binomial, okay, into a product of monomial times binomial times binomial. You've now factored it. But looking at it first, you probably wouldn't think it's difference of 2 squares until you now factor by GCF. So in this second part, in this second video, we first of all will have to factor by GCF, and then we now factor using the difference of 2 squares. Okay? Let's do more problems. Okay, number 2, 90x squared, and in this case, we wouldn't bother ourselves checking, okay? I'm not going to worry you about checking here, okay? Now, 90x squared minus 160. So what is the GCF here? If you look at this, the GCF is what? 10. And 10 into that will give you 9x squared minus 16. And that will give you 10 into 3 squared x squared minus 4 squared. Okay, we did this in the first video, part 1. So please view that, okay? So this will be 3x all squared minus 4 squared. And that will give you 10 into 3x plus 4 times 3x minus 4. And this becomes your answer. Okay? Number 3, we have 90x squared minus 160y squared. Okay, we have 16 problems here. So please. After watching me do questions 1 and 2, before you, excuse me, before you do the third question and other questions, please pause the video, pause it, and do this on your own first, okay? Do this on your own first, and if you finish doing it, you can play the video and see whether we got the same answer, okay? So, what is the GCF here? Is still 10, and this will give you what? 9x squared minus 16y squared. Okay, so this will give you 10, 3 squared x squared minus 4 squared y squared. And this will give you 10, 3x all squared minus 4y all squared. And this will give you 10 times 3x plus 4y times 3x minus 4y. Okay? Be looking at it then. Question 4. N cubed n minus 25mn. Okay, if you look at it just by inspection, you might think it's not difference of 2 squares until you factor by GCF first. So if you factor, what's the GCF? GCF here is mn, and n cubed n divided by mn is what? m squared minus 25mn divided by mn is 25. Okay, so you have mn, m squared minus 5 squared. And that will give you mn, m plus 5 times m minus 5. And this becomes your answer. Okay, question 5. Question 5, m cubed n squared minus mn squared. So here, what will be the GCF? The GCF is mn squared. And you know what? Some of you might ask me, hey, how have you been getting all this GCF? Okay, let me kind of explain it. Please watch my video on factors and multiples. It will help you. But let me kind of explain to you how I'm getting all this GCF. You have m cubed n squared. This gives you m times n times n times n times n. Right? And then you have mn squared, which is n times n times n. So your GCF now will be what is common on both of them, pick it one time. Whatever is common on both of them, pick it one time. So m and m is common, right? Then n and n here is common, and also n and n here is common. So this is m times n times n, and that is mn squared. Mn squared. That's how we got the GCF here. Okay, and even if, like with on question 4, like if you have numbers like 25 mn, it means 5 times 5 times m times n. Okay, and then m cubed n is m times m times m times n. Okay, now for numbers, you want to do prime factorization. What does prime factorization mean? You make sure you find the factors that are prime numbers. I explained that in that video on factors and multiples. Okay, view that video. So you just bring out the GCF, and then what is now remaining, all you need to do is to divide this m cubed n squared divided by mn squared. Okay, this gives you m times m times m times n times n all over m times n times n. M divide m is gone, n is gone, n is gone. And you only have m squared. M squared. But you know what we did now? Then this minus is this minus. But guess what? Instead of doing this, you know the easiest thing you can do? Just look for some, when you get the GCF, right? What is remaining here is m times n, which is m squared. Okay, now, and what is remaining here is just 1. You see, this is 1. Because mn squared divided by mn squared is 1. Now, another thing you can do is this. If you don't want to write it out like this, you can apply your law of exponents. Law of exponents. You know, this is m cubed divided by m. This m means 1. Okay, so this is 3 minus 1. M, 3 minus 1. Remember, if they have the same base, but different exponents, and they are dividing themselves, you have to subtract the exponents. Okay? So 3 minus 1 is 2. And 2 minus 2 is 0. Anything raised to power 0 is 1. So you have only m squared here. Okay? Now, I did videos on exponents. View those videos as well. So you see, you can do this 3 ways. You can simplify it like this and divide, or you just pick from here whatever is remaining, okay, or you use exponents, okay. So we now see that, let's complete this. This is mn squared, m squared minus 1 squared, and that will now give you mn squared, m plus 1 times m minus 1. This becomes your answer. Question 6. Let's get going. 100 x squared minus y raised to power 4. 100 x squared minus y raised to power 4. Okay. Look at this now, okay? This is 10 squared x squared minus, you might ask me, Mr. C, how are you going to make y raised to power 4 into squared? You can, okay? 2 times 2 is 4. This means y squared all squared. Okay? So now this is now 10x all squared minus y squared all squared. And when you compare it with a and b, if you compare with a squared minus b squared, you will see that a is 10x and then b is y squared. Okay? A will be 10x and then b is y squared. So this will now give you what? 10x plus y squared times 10x minus y squared. This becomes your answer. That's it. Number 7. We are moving on. B6, b raised to power 6 minus 16q squared. Here also, you can still, how would you make P6 to be in squared? It's P cubed, then P cubed, then squared. You see that? Like I explained in the first video, you want it to look like this, a squared minus b squared. So you can find your a, you find your b, then you apply the product of the sum and the difference. Okay? Then minus 4 squared q squared. Right? So this is p cubed all squared minus 4q all squared. Okay? So if you now compare with a squared and b squared, a will now be p cubed and b will now be 4q. Right? So this will now be p cubed plus 4q times p cubed minus 4q. And this becomes your answer. K4 minus 16. K4 minus 16. So this is k squared squared minus 4 squared. Here, your a becomes your k squared, your b becomes your 4. So this will now be k squared plus 4, then k squared minus 4. But now, wait a minute. Do we stop here? No. We don't stop here because we can still do something here. Now, sum of two squares, you can only factor it if it has common factors. That is by factoring by GCF. Otherwise, you cannot. Okay? So this is like sum of 2 squared, k squared plus 2 squared. We can do anything here. They don't have any common factors. But here, difference of 2 squares, we can still apply it here. So this will be k squared plus 4. Then this is k squared minus 2 squared. And that will be k squared plus 4. Then k plus 2 times k minus 2. And this becomes your answer. Question 9. We have 4m cubed n minus 64 mn cubed. Right? So what is the GCF here? Of course, the GCF, we have 4 for the numbers, then m, because we have n cubed m, we have n, then n cubed, we have n. 4mn is the GCF. And if you divide that, 4m cubed n divided by 4mn will give you n squared, right? Minus 64mn cubed divided by 4mn will give you 16n squared. You see that? Okay, so this will now be 4mn n squared minus 4n squared. 4 squared n squared. Remember 16 is 4 squared. Okay, so this is now 4mn n squared minus 4n all squared. And you can now do your difference of two squares here. Your a is your m and your b is 4n. So this will be 4mn m plus 4n then m minus 4n. And this becomes your answer. See that? M plus 4n and m minus 4n. Okay? Now question 10. We're coming to the end. 20x cubed minus 45xy squared. What is the GCF here? The GCF should be 5x, because x cubed for the 20 and 45 should be 5, right? Then x cubed and x should be x, then there's no y here. So this is 5x. 20x cubed divided by 5x is 4x squared minus 45xy squared divided by 5x will give us 9y squared. So this will now give us 5x times 2 squared x squared minus 3 squared y squared. And this will be 5x times 2x all squared minus 3y all squared. So here your a will be 2x and your b will be 3y. So this will now be 5x times 2x plus 3y, product of their sum and their difference. This becomes your answer. See, factoring this by difference of two squares. You factor by GCF first, and then you now factor using the difference of two squares. 11, 7x minus 7x cubed. What is the GCF here? Of course, it's 7x. This is 1 minus x squared. Okay, 1 minus x squared. And of course, this will now be 7x, 1 squared minus x squared. Here, your a is your 1 and your b is your x. So this will be 7x, 1 plus x times 1 minus x. Right? Question 12. Question 12. One minus 16p4. How would you factor this? 1 minus 16p4. Okay, 1 is 1 squared, right? 1 squared minus 16 is 4 squared, and then p4. We've got a problem here, p raised to power 4. We've got a problem here. So this will be 1 squared minus 4 squared. How do we do this p4? This is p squared all squared. You see that now? So now that we you know, like I explained in the previous video, part 1, you want this to be an entity. You want it to be an entity. Right? You want it to be an entity. So how would you make this to be an entity? Here. You now have this, because 2 is here, 2 is here, right? So you can bring this to, and write 4p all squared. 4p squared, 4p squared squared. Okay? Because you see, now if you have to expand this, if you look at the law of exponents, if you expand this, this will be 4 squared P4. You've got to be careful here. You really got to be careful on how you make it as an entity. You see that 2 is here, 2 is here. You now join them. But you've got to make it as an entity so that you can now find your A and your B. It has to be an entity. You don't just solve like that. No. I mean, I will teach you well. You know, I will advise you to make it as an entity before you now find your A, find your B, and you solve. Yeah, we did these similar problems like this in the part 1. Okay, so now your A here will now be 1 and your B is 4p squared. So this will be 1 plus 4p squared times 1 minus 4p squared. Okay, this is sum of 2 squares. There's nothing we can do here. But we can still do something here. Okay, now this will be 1 plus 4p squared times, this is 1 squared minus 2 squared p squared. You see that? You keep on factoring till the list. You have to factor till the list. Right? This is 1 plus 4p squared times, this is now 1 squared minus 2p all squared. I'm taking it gradually. So here again your A is going to be 1 and your B will be 2p. So your answer will now be 1 plus 4p squared times 1 plus 2p times 1 minus 2p. And this becomes your answer. See that? Okay, question 13. Question 13. 1 minus P4Q4. So this will be 1 squared minus P squared all squared, Q squared all squared. So this will be 1 minus P squared Q squared all squared. See that? 1 squared. You've got to take it gradually, and you have to make this as an entity. You've got to make it as an entity. You have to do that. So this will now be, here we now have that our A is 1 and our B is P squared Q squared. So this will be 1 plus P squared Q squared, and then 1 minus P squared Q squared. Okay, we've not finished. Here we can't do anything here. Sum of 2 squares, but here we can still do something. So this will be 1 plus P squared Q squared times 1 squared minus P Q all squared. See that? So this will be 1 plus P squared Q squared. Then here your A becomes your 1 and your B becomes your PQ. So this will be 1 plus PQ times 1 minus PQ. And this becomes your 1. See that? Question 14. (28x minus 7x cubed). All right. Here we still do what we do. Factor by GCF. What will be the GCF? The GCF will be 7x, and this will be what? 4 minus x squared. Right? So we now have 7x. 2 squared minus x squared, and of course here your A is 2 and your B is x. So this is 7x, 2 plus x times 2 minus x. 14. 15, at least I'm trying to solve all the varieties, you know, all the varieties of questions that you will get. So it will be pretty much simple for you. After solving all these varieties, then you should be very familiar. You should even be competent, proficient in solving, in factoring using difference of two squares. Okay, 15. We have 3x raised to the power 5 minus 243x. What is the GCF here? Of course it's 3, then x5 and x is x. 3x5 divided by 3x is x4 minus 3 into 24, 81. x4 minus 81. Right? So this is now 3x. And this is x squared all squared minus 9 squared. That is 3x. Here your a is x squared and your b is 9. So this is x squared plus 9 times x squared minus 9. Okay. We still got to do something here, but we cannot do anything here. So this will be 3x, x squared plus 9, x squared minus 3 squared. And this will be 3x, x squared plus 9. Then here your a is x, your b is 3. X plus 3 times x minus 3.
This becomes your answer.
Okay, last but not the least, let me do it here in the center. Last but not the least, question 16. (3m4 minus 48). 3m raised to the power 4 minus 48. What is the GCF is 3, and this is m4 minus 16. So this will be 3 m squared all squared minus 4 squared. And this is 3. Here your a is m squared and your b is 4. So this is m squared plus 4 times m squared minus 4. We can't do anything here, but we can do something here. So we simplify further. 3 m squared plus 4 times m squared minus 2 squared. So this will be 3 m squared plus 4 times 3 times m squared plus 4 times, here your a is m and your b is 2. So this is m plus 2 times m minus 2.
And this becomes your answer.
Thank you so much, students, for listening. We have come to the end of this presentation.
Give